Ironclad beasts, the debut of tanks on the Western Front. The First World War, a brutal conflict of attrition, saw the creation of a revolutionary weapon, the tank. These lumbering ironclad beasts, emerging from the ingenuity of engineers in the face of trench warfare's stalemate, promised to break the deadlock and reshape the battlefield. Though plagued by mechanical issues and limitations, tanks, in their baptism by fire, marked a turning point in warfare, foreshadowing their dominance in battles to come. This ironclad ballet took place in the muddy trenches of the Western Front, a labyrinth of fortifications where conventional tactics yielded only a horrifying cost in lives. Military minds, desperate to break the stalemate, explored innovative solutions. The concept of the tank, an armored vehicle capable of traversing no man's land and crushing enemy defenses, emerged from this crucible of necessity. The first tanks, christened Mark I by the British, were primitive machines, a far cry from the sleek juggernauts of future wars. Cumbersome and prone to breakdowns, they lumbered across the battlefield at a glacial pace, vulnerable to artillery fire and mechanical failure. Yet, they held the promise of something revolutionary: mobility and protection on a previously unimaginable scale. The baptism of fire for these ironclad beasts came on the Somme battlefield in September 1916. Despite their limitations, the initial deployment of tanks instilled fear and confusion in German ranks. Their lumbering advance, though plagued by breakdowns, breached enemy lines and offered a glimpse of a future where trenches might become obsolete. However, the limitations of these early tanks quickly became apparent. Their weight bogged them down in the churned-up earth, and their rudimentary design made them easy targets for German artillery. Many tanks became stranded and fell prey to enemy fire, littering the battlefield as stark reminders of the challenges of this new technology. Despite the initial setbacks, the impact of tanks on the First World War transcended battlefield successes. Their mere presence forced a re-evaluation of defensive strategies. German forces scrambled to develop anti-tank weapons and tactics, acknowledging the threat posed by these ironclad behemoths. The seeds of future tank development were sown, fueled by the lessons learned in the mud and blood of the Western Front. The legacy of the tank in the First World War extends far beyond the limited tactical gains achieved. These lumbering forerunners of future armored warfare changed the landscape of battle. They proved the potential of mobility and armor in breaking the deadlock of trench warfare, paving the way for a new era of mechanized combat. The echoes of their mechanical rumble continue to resonate in military history, a reminder of the constant evolution of warfare, the enduring human quest to break through the boundaries of the battlefield. A concrete servant, the Hindenburg Line and the shifting tides of the Western Front. In the crucible of the First World War, a formidable defensive bulwark emerged on the Western Front, the Hindenburg Line. This meticulously constructed network of trenches and fortifications, a testament to German engineering prowess, aimed to shorten the front line and blunt Allied offensives. Though ultimately breached, the Hindenburg Line marked a turning point in the war, forcing the Allies to re-evaluate their strategies and foreshadowing the brutal stalemate that would define the conflict. On the war-torn plains of northern France in 1916, a landscape already scarred by months of relentless fighting, the tide of the war had begun to turn against Germany. The grinding battles of Verdun and the Somme had inflicted heavy casualties and exposed the limitations of offensive tactics. German commanders, under the leadership of the revered General Paul von Hindenburg, recognized the need for a strategic shift. The Hindenburg Line, named after the iconic German military leader, was more than just a series of trenches. It was a complex system of fortified positions, concrete shelters, and barbed wire entanglements designed to maximize defensive capabilities. German engineers, drawing on the lessons learned from previous battles, constructed the line in secret, aiming to surprise the Allies and regain the initiative. In early 1917, the curtain rose on this act of strategic deception. German forces launched a staged retreat, luring the Allies into advancing across a devastated landscape. Then, with a thunderous roar, the trap snapped shut. Allied troops, unaware of the formidable defenses hidden behind the seemingly abandoned trenches, were met with a withering hail of artillery fire and machine gun volleys. The Hindenburg Line served its purpose initially. The Allied advance faltered, their momentum stalled by the unexpected strength of the German defenses. The carefully planned offensive sputtered to a halt, replaced by a renewed sense of frustration and mounting casualties. The psychological impact on Allied morale was significant, highlighting the resilience of the German war machine. However, the Hindenburg Line was not an impenetrable fortress. Allied intelligence eventually uncovered the extent of the German defenses, and new tactics were developed to overcome them. Improved artillery barrages, combined with the use of innovative technologies like tanks, gradually eroded the defensive strength of the line. By late 1918, with the tide of the war decisively turning against Germany, the Hindenburg Line was breached in a series of coordinated Allied offensives. The meticulously constructed defenses, once a symbol of German resilience, crumbled in the face of overwhelming force and shifting fortunes. The Hindenburg Line transcends its role as a single defensive position. It serves as a microcosm of the larger strategic struggles of the First World War. The desperate search for an advantage, the relentless pursuit of defensive strength, and the ultimate futility of a war of attrition. The echoes of this epic clash on the Western Front continue to resonate in military history, a reminder of the ingenuity and limitations of defensive warfare, and the enduring human cost of territorial ambitions. A crumbling colossus, the Petrograd Soviet and the abdication of Nicholas II. In the tumultuous year of 1917, a tremor of revolution shook the foundations of the Russian Empire. At the epicenter of this seismic shift stood the Petrograd Soviet, a council of worker and soldier delegates, who called for the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II. These events, unfolding with an almost operatic drama, marked the beginning of the end for the Romanov dynasty and ushered in an era of uncertainty and upheaval for Russia. The stage for this epic drama was set in the sprawling city of Petrograd, formerly and currently known as St. Petersburg, the nerve center of the Tsarist regime. Discontent had been simmering for years, fueled by social inequality, food shortages, and the mounting human cost of the First World War. The Petrograd Soviet, initially formed as a moderate body to address worker grievances, became a rallying point for dissent as the war dragged on. In February 1917, a seemingly mundane bread shortage sparked a conflagration. Angry protests erupted in the streets of Petrograd, fueled by desperation and a growing sense of disillusionment with the Tsar's leadership. The Petrograd Soviet, caught between the demands of the populace and the edicts of the Tsar, found itself thrust into a pivotal role. Initially hesitant, the Soviet leadership, under figures like Alexander Kerensky, sided with the protesters. Calls for strikes and demonstrations spread like wildfire, crippling the city and paralyzing the Tsarist government. Soldiers, increasingly weary of the war and sympathetic to the plight of the workers, disobeyed orders and joined the growing throngs on the streets. As the situation spiraled out of control, Nicholas II, from his distant headquarters, remained detached from the escalating crisis. His attempts to quell the unrest through force only served to inflame passions further. The once mighty Tsar, isolated and out of touch with his people, appeared a fading colossus, unable to stem the tide of revolution. Faced with a crumbling regime and a disintegrating army, Nicholas II was forced to make a fateful decision. On a cold March day in 1917, he abdicated the throne, ending centuries of Romanov rule. The news reverberated through Russia, a final tremor in the earthquake of revolution. The once powerful Tsar, stripped of his authority, became a mere figurehead, cast aside by the relentless tide of history. The rise of the Petrograd Soviet and the abdication of Nicholas II marked a turning point in Russian history. The once seemingly invincible Tsarist regime, weakened by war and social unrest, crumbled with surprising swiftness. The future of Russia remained shrouded in uncertainty, a power vacuum waiting to be filled by revolutionary forces vying for control. The echoes of this epic drama continue to resonate in the halls of power. The events of 1917 serve as a cautionary tale for autocratic rulers, a stark reminder of the consequences of ignoring the plight of their people. The rise of the Petrograd Soviet and the abdication of Nicholas II stand as a testament to the power of collective action and the ever-present potential for revolution in the face of injustice and oppression. A Storm from the East, Lenin's April Theses and the Spark of Revolution. In the crucible of the First World War, a radical idea ignited a firestorm in Russia: Vladimir Lenin's April Theses. These electrifying pronouncements, delivered upon his return from exile, called for an end to the war, a transfer of power to the Soviets, and a socialist revolution. The April Theses, a potent blend of ideology and revolutionary fervor, served as a clarion call for the discontented masses of Russia, shaping the course of the nascent revolution and casting a long shadow over the 20th century. Disillusionment with the war, social inequalities, and the abdication of Nicholas II had created a fertile ground for radical ideas. Lenin, a seasoned revolutionary leader in exile, returned to Russia brimming with revolutionary zeal and a fervent belief in Marxist ideology. In Petrograd in April 1917, amidst the swirling chaos of the February Revolution, Lenin delivered his now famous April Theses. These pronouncements, far from a dry academic treatise, were a potent call to action. They condemned the ongoing war as imperialist, advocated for the transfer of power to the Soviets, worker and soldier councils, and called for a socialist revolution to overthrow the bourgeois government. The April Theses, delivered with fiery conviction, resonated with the war-weary populace. Lenin's message, stripped of complex Marxist jargon and focused on immediate action, struck a chord with the discontented masses. The call for peace, land, and bread, a potent slogan encapsulating the desires of the people, became a rallying cry for the revolution. The impact of the April Theses transcended the realm of mere words. They served as a dividing line within the nascent revolutionary movement. Moderate socialists, advocating for a gradual transition to socialism through a democratic government, found themselves at odds with Lenin's radical vision. The Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, embraced the April Theses, their ranks swelling with disillusioned workers and soldiers yearning for a complete societal transformation. The April Theses marked a turning point in the Russian Revolution. They propelled Lenin and the Bolsheviks to the forefront of the revolutionary movement, offering a clear path forward in a time of uncertainty. The call for a socialist revolution, though initially met with skepticism, gained traction as the provisional government floundered and the war continued to bleed Russia dry. The echoes of Lenin's April Theses continue to reverberate in the halls of history. They stand as a potent reminder of the power of ideology in shaping revolutions and the allure of radical solutions in times of crisis. The April Theses serve as a cautionary tale, highlighting the potential for violence and upheaval in the pursuit of utopian ideals. In the next chapter, we will cover the German Spring Offensive and the stalemate in southern Palestine, as well as the Arab Revolt and the rise of a hero, Lawrence of Arabia.